many times do we think we know the Lord is leading us to do something, and because we don't want to do it, we try to spiritualize our disobedience. You know what I mean? I see you laughing out there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We spiritualize our disobedience. Let's pretend I'm Jonah for just a minute. Jonah, go to Nineveh and give them the good news of Jesus. Or Jehovah. Oh boy, those are wicked people. They're vile people. And when they kill Christians, they skin them and put the skins of the Christians on the walls of the city as trophies. And so how can I nobilize my disobedience? Maybe what I'll do is I'll go buy a ticket to get on a boat. And I won't go there, but I'll witness to the people on the boat. And I'll witness to the person who sells me the ticket. And I'll witness to the people in Joppa. And I'll witness to the fish in the sea. I'll witness. You see, you can try to justify and spiritualize your disobedience all day long, but ultimately God's plan is for Jonah to end up in Nineveh. Because God, who is the Alpha, the first Greek letter of the alphabet, and the Omega, the last Greek letter of the Greek alphabet, He is the first and He is the last. He was there at the beginning. He who knew no beginning was there at the beginning. And when everything is said and done, He will be there, and He will always be there, for He is eternal. He knew that if Jonah would just obey Him, revival would come. God knew this. But we live like this. We see what's right in front of our face. And that's all we're really supposed to be obedient with. That's all we're expected to obey, is what you see right now. The problem is we don't want to see just this. We want to see this. And if I say yes to this, then what's next? If I say yes to that, what's that? And then ultimately there's this great revival in Nineveh. And people are just bowing down and worshiping God. And if we could see that at the end, then boy, don't you sometimes think that would make it easier to obey God if he just revealed the end to, okay, well, there's no room for faith in that, is there? If Jesus would have told the disciples, I'm going to let Lazarus die, and then I'm going to raise him up, and you're just going to really, really spaz out when you see this miracle, disciples. So just hang. He didn't tell them that. He wanted to see their faith. He wanted to see them believe without seeing. And so here he continues. He says, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of the world. And if one walks at night, he stumbles because that light of the world is not in him. Listen, we have nothing to fear. If there's anyone who has every reason to fear, it's the one who does not have the light of Jesus Christ in their life. They are people who are living in the darkness. They are people who are not living in the light of Christ. They do not have Jesus in their heart, in their life, in their anything. They may be good people, they may be wonderful people, but they're not saved people. And they have reason to fear. But if you know Christ, if you claim to be a disciple or a follower of Jesus Christ, you have nothing to fear. So let's say that together. Let's say, I have nothing to fear. You ready? I have nothing to fear. These things he said after that, he said to them, our friend Lazarus is asleep. I go to wake him up. And his disciples said, Lord, if he's asleep, he's going to get well. He's going to wake up. And however, Jesus was speaking of his death. Jesus let him die. They thought he was talking about just taking a little rest. In verse 14 of John chapter 11, it says, then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead, guys. And I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, so that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him. There are those in this room who are afraid that God will not use you because of your past. I want you to hear something very, very carefully. It could very well be because of your past that you regret and that you know is wrong, and you call it sin is sin and you've repented of it. It could be because of your past that God's sovereignty will visit you so closely that he will use you in ways that ultimately, yes, it's a part of his plan. But if you had never given it to Jesus, he would not have been able to use you the same way. If you will not give it to him, he will not use it. But there are things right now that people are thinking of, well, okay, I'm thinking of this. Tell me, how can God use that? It's not my place to tell God how to use it. All I know is Romans 8:28 says, and I believe the Bible cover to cover, and when Romans 8:28 says that God all things are going to work together for good to those who love him and are called according to his purpose. All things. All things. Somebody's thinking, I need to go to Bible college so God can use me. Well, I certainly do not downplay education. I'm a promoter of it, and I'm all for it, and I think everybody should be. Encouragers of people learning and becoming more and more educated in things of God. But don't deceive yourself into thinking that if you do not get the education, somehow that God cannot use you. Or maybe you feel like it's too late for you to get the education that you wish you would have gotten when you were younger, and you're thinking, well, if I would have just this and if I would have just that. What God is saying, if you will, not if you would have, should have, but if you will just give me who you are, where you are right now, God would do incredible things with you. And when he does it, don't be afraid. After Thomas in verse 16 says, okay, let's go die with the Lord. Verse 17, Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had joined the women around Mary and Martha to comfort them concerning their brother. And Martha, as soon as they heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him. Mary was still sitting in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had just been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give it to you. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. I love that Jesus took the wages of sin and used it. Because of a thing called resurrection, he used it to bring glory to his Father in heaven. And he used it to bring people to Christ. Death was not a part of God's plan. Death is a result of sin entered into the world. There are things in your life that were not a part of God's big picture plan. There are words that you say that he wasn't pleased by that, but yet because of this thing called will, he allowed you to do it. He allowed you to say it. He allowed you to experience it. He allowed you to do wrong. And somebody may be thinking, well, are you saying the end justifies the means? Is if you do something bad, then as long as you take that bad, and is it okay to steal to give to the poor? That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is the sovereignty of God. That if your heart is a heart of brokenness over what you have done, and you say, Lord, here am I, use me. All my sin, all my failure, all my shame, all my junk, and Lord, just take me. He will take you and use you in ways that you would have never imagined. And you know, God's people need to hear that. Because they're people who are divorced, and because of things they've heard in previous churches that they've been in, they've been told that they're just never going to be used by God again. Some people have even been told they can't be members of the church anymore because they've been through a divorce. Some people have been told that because of the way their kids behaved when they grew up and that they no longer could serve in certain things. And I just want you to know that, listen, if I'm a citizen of heaven, that's a cool thing, because in the citizenship of heaven, there are no second-class citizens. And I just want you to hear that with your heart, not just your ears. There are consequences to sin. There are things that God will allow us to have to face called consequences as a result of sin. But if we will be broken, if we will have a contrite spirit and brokenness before God over what we have done and how we have behaved, whatever it is in your life, and you give it to him, nothing will be wasted. He'll use it. Man, I love that.